How can a mother love her child so deeply but come to despise him just as much? I learned the answer 3 months ago, and now my son and his wife are standing at my door, crying and begging, and I'm not letting them in. My name is Dorothy Williams. I'm 68 years old, and until 3 months ago, I thought I knew what it meant to be a mother. I thought sacrifice was love. I thought putting your child first, always, no matter what, was what good mothers did. I was wrong. So very wrong. It started on a Tuesday morning in March. I remember because it was the first warm day after a brutal winter, and I had just planted new roses in my front garden. I was on my knees in the dirt, humming an old gospel song my mama used to sing, when my phone rang. It was my son, Marcus, my only child. The boy I raised alone after his father walked out when he was just 3 years old. "Mama," he said, and something in his voice made my hand stop moving in the soil. "I need to talk to you about something important." "What is it, baby?" I asked, brushing dirt from my hands onto my old gardening apron. "Everything all right with you and Keisha?" Marcus had been married to Keisha for 2 years. She was a lawyer, beautiful, educated, from a well-to-do family in Atlanta. I had never quite felt comfortable around her, if I'm being honest. There was something in the way she looked at my modest three-bedroom house in our working-class neighborhood. Something in the way she smiled when I served dinner on my everyday dishes instead of the good china I saved for special occasions. "That's what I need to talk to you about," Marcus said, and I could hear Keisha's voice in the background, sharp and insistent. "Keisha's mother is coming to stay with us for a while. She's having some work done on her house in Atlanta, and she needs a place to stay for about 6 months." "6 months?" I said, standing up and walking to my porch swing. "That's quite a long time. Where's she going to sleep? Y'all only have that two-bedroom apartment." There was a long pause. Too long. The kind of pause that makes your stomach drop even before you know why. "That's the thing, Mama," Marcus said, and his voice got quieter, like he was moving away from Keisha. "We need you to move out for a while, just temporarily. Keisha's mother needs the space, and you know how it is with in-laws. It would be too crowded with both of you there." I sat down hard on the porch swing, the chains creaking under my weight. For a moment, I thought I had misheard him. "What did you say?" "Just for 6 months, Mama. We'll help you find a place. Maybe one of those senior living communities. They have activities and everything. You might even like it better than living with us." Living with them. As if I had been the one who needed a place to stay. As if I hadn't given up my own house, the house I had paid off with 30 years of nursing shifts at County General, the house where I had raised Marcus alone, scraping together every penny for his clothes, his food, his college education. I had sold that house 2 years ago when Marcus and Keisha got married because Marcus said they needed help with the down payment on their apartment. "Just move in with us, Mama. We're family. We take care of each other." I had given them $80,000 from the sale of my house, everything I had left. After the down payment went into their bank account because my son said they needed it for our future together. I kept $15,000 for myself, thinking that was more than enough since I'd be living with them, since family takes care of each other. "Marcus," I said, slowly, trying to keep my voice steady, "are you telling me I need to move out of the apartment I helped you buy so your mother-in-law can move in?" "It's just temporary, Mama. 6 months. Mrs. Patterson is having her house fumigated in 2 weeks. Keisha's mother is very particular about her living arrangements. She can't share space easily. You understand?" "And where exactly am I supposed to go?" "Well," and here his voice got even quieter. "Keisha suggested maybe you could look into one of those facilities, for seniors. They have nurses on staff, activities, people your own age. It might be good for you. You've been alone so much since you retired." Alone. I had been alone because every time I tried to make plans with my church friends or my sister Diana in Chicago, Marcus or Keisha needed something. Could I watch the apartment while they went on vacation? Could I cook dinner for Keisha's work party because she was too busy? Could I give them another $2,000 because Keisha needed a new car and they were just a little short? Marcus, I said, and my voice came out harder than I intended. Are you telling me I need to move out of the apartment I helped you buy so your mother-in-law can move in? It's just temporary, Mama. 6 months. Mrs. Patterson is having her house fumigated in 2 weeks. I hung up the phone without saying goodbye. It was the first time in my life I had ever hung up on my child. I sat on that porch swing for 3 hours, watching the sun move across my neighbor's roof, watching Mrs. Johnson across the street bring in her groceries, watching life continue as normal while my world cracked apart. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in the small bedroom Marcus and Keisha had given me, the bedroom that used to be their office until I moved in, the bedroom where I could hear them laughing and talking in their master suite with their king-size bed and attached bathroom, while I used the hallway bathroom that was really meant for guests. I stared at the ceiling and did something I hadn't done in a long time. I added up numbers in my head. $80,000 for their down payment. $500 a month I'd been giving them for household expenses for 2 years. That was $12,000. The new furniture for their living room when they said the old stuff was too worn. $5,000. Keisha's law school loan payment I made when she said they were strapped. $10,000. The car repair that turned into a down payment on Keisha's new Lexus. $8,000. $119,000. In 2 years of living with them, I had given them $119,000. And now they wanted me to go to Heritage Gardens so Keisha's mother could have my room. But it wasn't really the money that broke something inside me that night. Money can be earned again, saved again. It was the ease with which Marcus asked, the casual way he said just for 6 months, as if moving your 68-year-old mother into senior living was the same as asking her to watch the apartment for a weekend. It was the way Keisha mentioned bingo, as if that was a reasonable substitute for having a home with your family. I got up at 4 a.m. and made myself a cup of coffee, the way I liked it, strong and black with just a little sugar. I sat at the kitchen table in the dark and watched the sun rise through the window, and I made a decision. If they wanted me to leave, I would leave. But not to Heritage Gardens, and not in 2 weeks. I would leave the next day, and I would show my son exactly what it meant when you throw away the person who loved you the most in this world. I packed my bags that morning while Marcus and Keisha were still asleep. I moved quietly, like a ghost in my own temporary home, folding my clothes and placing them in the same 2 suitcases I had brought when I moved in 2 years ago. Everything I owned fit into 2 suitcases and 3 boxes. 68 years of life condensed into luggage that could fit in the trunk of a car. I took one last look at the small bedroom that had never really felt like mine. The walls were still painted that pale gray Keisha had chosen, not the warm cream color I preferred. My pictures of Marcus as a baby were still in frames on the dresser, but they looked out of place somehow, like visitors in someone else's space. I picked up my favorite photo, Marcus at age 5, missing his 2 front teeth, wearing the Superman costume I had saved up 3 months to buy him. He looked so happy then, so innocent. I wondered when I had lost that little boy. I left a note on the kitchen counter. It was short, simple. You wanted me gone? I'm gone. Don't call. Mama. I called a taxi and left at 6:30 in the morning, before the sun was fully up, before Marcus and Keisha stirred in their bedroom. I didn't look back at the building as we drove away. The taxi driver, an older man named Raymond, asked me where I was headed. The Greyhound station, I said. Where are you traveling to, ma'am? Chicago, to stay with my sister. It was a lie. I had called Diana the night before, and she had been ready to buy me a plane ticket immediately. "Get away from that ungrateful boy," she had said, anger making her voice sharp. "Come stay with me. I have plenty of room." But I had told her no. I needed to do this on my own, needed to find my own way. I promised her I would call when I got settled. At the station, I bought a ticket to Chicago, then sat in the waiting area watching families say goodbye, watching young people with their whole lives ahead of them, watching other elderly folks traveling alone like me. An old man across from me smiled kindly. "Visiting family?" he asked. "Leaving them," I said, and his smile faded into understanding. The bus ride took 18 hours. I sat by the window and watched America roll past, small towns and big cities, farmland and industrial zones, people living their lives while mine was being completely rebuilt. I didn't cry. I was past crying. Instead, I planned. I had $15,000 in my personal account, money I had kept separate from everything I had given Marcus and Keisha. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I would need to find a cheap place to stay in Chicago, somewhere safe but affordable. I would need to be careful with every dollar now, because there would be no more nursing salary, no more steady income, just my small Social Security check each month. When I arrived in Chicago, I didn't call Diana. Instead, I checked into a modest motel on the South Side, a place called the Restful Inn that was anything but restful. The room was small and smelled of old cigarettes and industrial cleaner, but it was $45 a night and the door locked. That was enough. I spent the first week doing nothing but sitting in that room, watching TV, eating takeout from the Chinese restaurant next door. My phone rang constantly. Marcus, Keisha, even Keisha's mother somehow got my number. I didn't answer. I let each call go to voicemail, then deleted the messages without listening to them. After a week, the call slowed. After 2 weeks, they stopped almost completely. Diana found me 3 weeks in. She had called every motel in Chicago until she found the one where an elderly Black woman matching my description was staying. She showed up at my door at 8 a.m. on a Saturday, took one look at my face, and pulled me into her arms. "Dorothy Marie Williams," she said, using my full name the way Mama used to when we were in trouble. "What are you doing to yourself?" "Surviving," I said. Diana spent the whole day with me. She brought groceries, cleaned my room, forced me to eat a proper meal, and then she sat me down and asked the question I had been avoiding for 3 weeks. "What's your plan, sister?" "I don't have one yet," I admitted. "I just know I can't go back there." "Good. You shouldn't. But you can't stay in this motel forever either. Come stay with me." "No, Diana. I need to stand on my own." She looked hard at me, her eyes, so much like our mother's, seeing right through me. "This isn't about standing on your own, Dorothy. This is about punishing yourself for Marcus's mistakes. You think if you suffer enough, it'll make sense somehow. It won't." She was right, but I wasn't ready to admit it yet. Instead, I changed the subject. "How much does a small apartment cost around here?" Diana sighed, recognizing my stubbornness. "Depends on the neighborhood. But with your Social Security and if you're careful, you could afford something small, maybe in Bronzeville or Hyde Park." Over the next 2 weeks, Diana helped me apartment hunt. We looked at 12 places before I found it. A tiny studio apartment in Bronzeville on the 3rd floor of an old building that had seen better days but was clean and safe. It had hardwood floors that creaked, a small kitchen with appliances from the 1980s, and a bathroom with black and white tile that reminded me of my grandmother's house. The rent was $650 a month. "I'll take it," I told the landlord, Mr. Chen, an elderly Chinese man who reminded me of my old patients at County General. "You have references?" he asked. I hesitated. "I can pay 6 months up front." He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, 6 months. You seem like good people." I moved in on April 15th, exactly 6 weeks after I had left Marcus and Keisha. Diana helped me buy basic furniture from thrift stores: a bed, a small table, 2 chairs, a lamp. Mrs. Johnson from across the hall gave me dishes and pots she didn't need anymore. Another neighbor, a young woman named Tasha, gave me towels and sheets. Slowly, I built a life. Not the life I had imagined for myself. Not the life where I'd be spending my retirement years watching my grandchildren grow up, but a life nonetheless. I joined the senior center 2 blocks away, where I met women like me. Women who had given everything to their families and were now learning to give to themselves. I started taking watercolor classes on Tuesdays. I had always wanted to learn to paint, but there had never been time between nursing shifts and raising Marcus and taking care of everyone else. Now I had nothing but time. I made friends, real friends, not people who needed something from me. Beatrice, who was 72 and had survived breast cancer twice. Linda, who was 65 and had left an abusive marriage after 40 years. Pearl, who was 75 and had been disowned by her children for refusing to give them her house. We were a club of women who had learned the hard way that love shouldn't cost everything. And through it all, I didn't call Marcus. Not once. My phone still rang sometimes. Marcus left voicemails that I eventually started listening to. At first, they were angry. "Mama, what are you doing? You can't just leave like this. Call me back." Then they turned confused. "Mama, please, we need to talk about this. Where are you?" Then worried. "Mama, are you okay? Please, just let me know you're safe." But I never called back. It was Keisha who finally figured out I was in Chicago. She called Diana, who told her nothing, but apparently confirmed enough for them to know. 3 months after I left, on a hot July afternoon, when I was coming back from the senior center with groceries, I found them sitting on the steps of my building. Marcus looked thinner. His face was drawn, and he had dark circles under his eyes that I recognized from my nursing days, the kind that came from weeks of poor sleep and stress. Keisha looked different, too. Her expensive clothes were wrinkled, her hair wasn't done in the sleek style she usually wore, and her makeup couldn't quite hide the puffiness around her eyes. They stood up when they saw me, and for a moment we all just stared at each other on that hot sidewalk in Bronzeville. 3 people connected by blood and history and betrayal. "Mama," Marcus said, and his voice cracked. "Mama, please, we need to talk." I shifted my grocery bags to my other hip. Mrs. Chen from the corner store had given me extra vegetables because she said I looked too thin. The bags were heavy, and I was tired from the walk in the heat. "There's nothing to talk about," I said, moving toward the door. Keisha stepped forward. "Mrs. Williams, please, just give us 5 minutes. We came all the way from—" "I didn't ask you to come," I said, cutting her off. My voice was calm, flat. I had practiced this moment in my head 100 times, imagining what I would say when they finally found me. I didn't ask for anything from you except basic human decency, and you couldn't even give me that. "Mama, please," Marcus said again, and now there were tears in his eyes. "I made a mistake, a terrible mistake. Can we please come inside and talk?" I looked at my son, really looked at him. I saw the little boy who used to climb into my bed during thunderstorms. I saw the teenager who had cried in my arms when he didn't make the basketball team. I saw the man who had walked across the stage at his college graduation and pointed at me in the audience, mouthing, "I did it, Mama." And I saw the man who had asked me to go to a nursing home so his mother-in-law could have my room. "No," I said simply. "What?" Marcus looked stunned, as if he had never considered that I might refuse. "You heard me. No. You can't come inside. You can't have 5 minutes. You can't have anything from me anymore, Marcus. That well is dry." Keisha made a sound that was half sob, half gasp. "Mrs. Williams, you don't understand. Things have been terrible. My mother is not my problem," I finished for her. "Your mother, your marriage, your apartment, your problems, none of it is my problem anymore. You made that very clear when you decided I was disposable." "We didn't think you were disposable," Marcus shouted, drawing looks from neighbors sitting on their stoops trying to escape the heat. "We just needed space. We thought you'd understand." "Understand?" I repeated, and for the first time, my calm cracked a little. Understand that my own son valued his mother-in-law's comfort over mine? Understand that after I gave you $119,000, after I raised you alone, after I sacrificed everything for you, I was worth less than 6 months of inconvenience? The number hung in the air between us. Marcus's face went pale. "What are you talking about? $119,000? You really never added it up, did you? The down payment, the monthly money, the furniture, the loans, the car, the vacation, all of it. $119,000 in 2 years, Marcus. That was everything I had from selling my house, the house I paid for with 30 years of nursing shifts, the house where I raised you, and you threw me away for bingo at Heritage Gardens." Keisha was crying openly now. "We didn't know it was that much. You thought I was an unlimited bank account. You thought wrong." An elderly man came out of the building, someone I recognized as Mr. Peterson from the second floor. He looked at Marcus and Keisha, then at me. "Mrs. Dorothy, everything okay here? These folks bothering you?" "No, Mr. Peterson, they were just leaving." Marcus reached out as if to touch my arm, then pulled back. "Mama, please. My marriage is falling apart. Keisha's mother, she drove us crazy. She criticized everything, spent all our money, turned our home into a nightmare. She only stayed 3 months before Keisha finally told her to leave, but by then, the damage was done. We fight constantly. We're barely speaking. And all I could think about was how I threw away the one person who actually loved me unconditionally." "Loved," I said, emphasizing the past tense. "I loved you unconditionally, Marcus. Past tense. Love has conditions now. Respect, dignity, basic human decency. You didn't meet any of those conditions." "So that's it?" Keisha said, anger mixed with her tears. "You're just going to abandon your own son? What kind of mother does that?" The question hit me like a slap, but I didn't let it show. The kind who finally learned that being a mother doesn't mean being a doormat. The kind who realized that unconditional love from a parent doesn't mean accepting unconditional disrespect from a child. I moved past them to the door of my building. Behind me, I could hear Marcus sobbing. It was a sound that tore at something deep in my chest, that old maternal instinct that wanted to turn around and comfort him, tell him it would be okay, fix everything like I always had. But I kept walking. "Mama, please," Marcus called out. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I stopped at the door, but didn't turn around. Sorry isn't enough, Marcus. Sorry doesn't give me back the house I sold for you. Sorry doesn't give me back the 2 years I spent walking on eggshells in your home. Sorry doesn't erase the fact that you looked me in the eye and told me to go play bingo while strangers took care of me. What do you want from me? he shouted. "What can I do to make this right?" I turned then, looked at him one last time. Nothing. There's nothing you can do. Because the woman who would have accepted your apology, who would have forgiven you immediately and come running back, you killed her when you asked her to leave. I'm someone different now. Someone who knows her worth. I went inside and climbed the 3 flights to my studio apartment. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the lock. Inside, I set down my groceries and walked to the window. From there, I could see Marcus and Keisha still standing on the sidewalk. They stood there for another 20 minutes, talking, crying, looking up at my building as if they could will me to come back down. Finally, they got into their car and drove away. I sat on my second-hand couch and let myself shake. Not from sadness. I was past sadness. From the sheer force of what I had just done. I had turned away my own child. The boy I had given birth to, raised, sacrificed everything for. I had looked into his crying eyes and said no. And for the first time in 3 months, I felt something unexpected. I felt free. Beatrice called that evening. Somehow she always knew when I needed someone. "Dorothy, you sound funny. What happened?" I told her everything. When she finished, there was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Good," Beatrice said finally. "You did good, honey. That boy needed to learn." "He was crying, Bea. My baby was crying on the sidewalk." "He's 35 years old, Dorothy. He's not a baby. He's a grown man who made grown man choices, and now he's dealing with grown man consequences." "But what if—" "What of nothing?" Beatrice interrupted firmly. "You did what you had to do. Now you let it be." But letting it be was harder than I expected. That night, I dreamed about Marcus as a little boy, waking up to nightmares calling for me. In my dream, I was in my old house, the one I had sold, and I could hear him crying from his bedroom, but when I tried to get to him, the hallway kept getting longer and longer. I woke up at 3 a.m. with tears on my face.
The next 2 weeks were the hardest. Marcus called every day, sometimes multiple times. He left long voicemails that I forced myself not to listen to. He sent text messages that I deleted without reading. Keisha sent emails to an address she must have gotten from somewhere, long paragraphs that I archived immediately. Diana came to visit me during this time. She brought wine and Chinese takeout and sat with me in my tiny studio while rain pattered against the windows. "You're torturing yourself," she observed, watching me delete another voicemail without listening. "I'm protecting myself," I corrected. "Those can be the same thing, sister." Diana poured us both more wine. "Have you thought about what you actually want from this situation?" "I want my son to understand what he did to me." "And if he never does? If he's too selfish or too stupid to ever really get it, are you prepared to never speak to him again for the rest of your life?" The question hung in the air. Was I? Could I really die someday without ever speaking to Marcus again? Without ever holding potential grandchildren? Without ever having him at my table for holidays? "I don't know," I admitted. "But I know I can't go back to how things were. I can't be the woman who accepts crumbs and calls it a feast." Diana nodded slowly. "Then don't be that woman. But maybe there's something between being a doormat and cutting him off forever. Maybe there's a middle ground where you have boundaries and self-respect, but you also have a relationship with your son." "He asked me to go to a nursing home, Diana." "I know, and that was cruel and wrong. But people can change, Dorothy, if they're willing to do the work." After Diana left, I thought about her words for a long time. Was I being too harsh? Too unforgiving? But then I remembered Keisha's voice saying, "bingo" and everything, as if that was an acceptable substitute for a home with family.
I remembered Marcus's casual tone when he said, just for 6 months, as if displacing your elderly mother was a minor inconvenience. No, I wasn't being too harsh. I was being exactly as harsh as the situation required. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Mrs. Johnson, my neighbor from across the hall, knocked on my door one Saturday morning. She was 83 years old, sharp as a tack, and had lived in the building for 40 years. "Dorothy," she said when I opened the door, "you have a visitor in the lobby. Young man. Says he's your son. I told him I'd check if you wanted to see him." My heart jumped. "Is he alone?" "Seems to be. No fancy wife with him this time." I thought about it. "Tell him I'll come down, but I'm not inviting him up." 5 minutes later, I was in the small lobby of the building. Marcus was sitting on the ancient couch that had been there since the building was constructed. He stood up when he saw me, and I noticed he was holding a folder. "Mama, thank you for coming down. I know you don't want to see me." "You have 5 minutes," I said, not sitting down. He nodded, accepting the boundary. "I've been going to therapy. Keisha and I both have, individual and couples. Our therapist said I needed to take accountability for what I did to you without expecting anything in return. So that's what I'm doing." He opened the folder and pulled out several pieces of paper. "He have made a list of every dollar you gave us in the last 2 years. You were right. It was $119,000. Actually, it was $119,400. I forgot about the $400 for the car registration." I said nothing, just watched him. "He also calculated what your share of the apartment should have been. If you had been paying rent somewhere else, it would have been about $8,400 over those 2 years. So really, you gave us $111,000 in pure gifts, money you earned over 30 years, money from selling your home, money you could have used to travel or enjoy your retirement." His voice cracked, but he kept going. "And in return, I asked you to move to a senior living facility so my mother-in-law could be more comfortable. I treated you like you were a burden instead of the woman who gave me everything." He pulled out another paper. "This is a payment plan. I can't pay you back $111,000 all at once, but I can pay you $500 a month for the next 18 years. It's not enough, and it's not fast enough, but it's what I can do while still keeping my bills paid." I looked at the paper. It was detailed, official looking, with dates and amounts carefully calculated. "I don't want your money, Marcus. I know, but I need to give it anyway, because a man who takes $111,000 from his mother and then throws her out is not a man. He's a parasite, and I need to stop being a parasite." For the first time since they had shown up 2 weeks ago, I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness, I wasn't ready for that, but recognition. Marcus was finally seeing himself clearly. "Your therapist told you to do this?" I asked. "She told me I needed to make amends. This is how I'm choosing to do it. But Mama, I need you to know, this isn't about trying to buy you back. You can take this money and still never speak to me again. That's your right. I stole from you. I know that now. Whether you were my mother or a stranger, what I did was theft. I took and took and took, and when you had nothing left to give, I tried to throw you away." "And Keisha, what does she say about all this?" "Keisha and I are separated. She moved back to Atlanta last week. We're getting divorced." I felt a complicated mix of emotions: sadness, vindication, concern. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. The marriage was built on the wrong foundation. We both wanted a life we couldn't afford, and we used you to subsidize it. When you left and the money stopped, we turned on each other. The therapist said we never actually loved each other. We loved what we thought each other could provide. He put the folder down on the couch. I'm not asking you to forgive me, Mama. I'm not asking you to come back into my life. I'm just asking you to let me try to make this right in whatever small way I can, even if it takes me the rest of my life. I looked at my son, really looked at him. The boy I had raised was gone, and in his place was a man I didn't quite know yet, a man who was starting to understand consequences, responsibility, respect. I need time, I said finally. I need time to think about all of this. Take all the time you need. I'll still be here, trying to be better, trying to be the son you deserved all along. He left the folder on the couch and walked toward the door. At the threshold, he turned back. I love you, Mama. I know I showed it in the worst possible ways. I know I took your love for granted, but I do love you. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving it, whether you ever speak to me again or not. After he left, I took the folder upstairs. That evening, I called my new friends, Beatrice, Linda, and Pearl, and we met at the senior center. I showed them the payment plan and told them everything. What do you think I should do? I asked. Beatrice studied the papers carefully. He's offering you $500 a month for 18 years. That's $108,000. He's actually trying to pay back almost everything. But is it real? Linda asked. Or is this just another manipulation? Pretty words and promises. Pearl, who at 75 had seen more than any of us, spoke quietly. The question isn't whether he means it now. The question is whether he'll still mean it in 6 months, a year, 5 years. Words are easy. It's the follow-through that matters. So what do I do? I asked. You wait, Pearl said simply. You let him prove himself. You don't have to forgive him today or accept him back into your life today. You just have to wait and watch. If he's serious, he'll show you. If he's not, that'll show too. I took Pearl's advice. I waited. And I watched. The first payment arrived on the 15th of August. $500, exactly as Marcus had promised, deposited into my bank account with the memo that said payment 1 of $216. I stared at that number. 216. 18 years of payments. Marcus would be 53 years old when he made the last one. I would be 86 if I lived that long. The second payment arrived on September 15th, then October, then November. Each one on time, each one with that same memo counting down the payments. But Marcus didn't just send money. He sent letters. Not emails or texts that could be dashed off quickly, but actual handwritten letters that arrived in my mailbox every 2 weeks. At first, I threw them away without opening them, but after the third one, curiosity got the better of me. Dear Mama, the letter began. I don't expect you to write back. I just need you to know what I'm doing to become a better person. He wrote about his therapy sessions, about the hard truths his therapist was making him face, about how he had been raised by a strong, sacrificing mother and had somehow twisted that into thinking sacrifice was something he was entitled to, rather than something to be grateful for. He wrote about his divorce from Keisha, how they had both admitted they had married for the wrong reasons, status, image, the life they thought they deserved rather than the life they could build together. How Keisha's mother had revealed cracks in their relationship that were already there, just hidden under a surface of pretense and your money. I used to blame Keisha for everything, he wrote. I told myself she was the one who wanted your money, who pushed me to ask you to leave. But Dr. Richardson made me see that I was the one who allowed it. Every time Keisha suggested asking you for money, I could have said no. Every time she complained about you being in the apartment, I could have defended you. I didn't. Because deep down, I wanted those things too. I wanted the easy life that came from having you pay for everything. And when you became inconvenient, I wanted you gone. That's on me, not Keisha. Me. The letters continued through the fall and into winter. I didn't respond to any of them, but I stopped throwing them away unread. I kept them in a shoebox under my bed, and sometimes, late at night, I would take them out and read them again. In December, something unexpected happened. Marcus's letter that month included a confession that stopped my breath. Mama, I need to tell you something I never told you before. When I was in college, I had a gambling problem. I lost $15,000 playing poker online. I was terrified and ashamed, and I didn't know how to fix it. That's when I came to you and told you I needed money for textbooks and supplies. You gave me $3,000 immediately. Then I came back 2 months later and said I needed money for a study abroad program. You gave me $5,000. Then I said I needed money for an internship that didn't pay. You gave me another $5,000. None of it was true. All of it went to pay off my gambling debts. And you never questioned me once. You just gave and gave and gave. And I learned that you always would. That's when it started, Mama. That's when I learned that I could take from you without consequences. I've been ashamed of this for 15 years. I'm telling you now because Dr. Richardson says I can't move forward without complete honesty. I sat in my little studio apartment holding that letter and cried for the first time since I had left Marcus's apartment 8 months ago. Not because of the money. The money was long gone and didn't matter, but because Marcus had been lying to me for 15 years and I had never known. Because I had been so eager to help, so desperate to be needed, that I had never asked questions or set boundaries. I had enabled him. Not intentionally, not maliciously, but I had done it all the same. Diana came for Christmas. We cooked a small turkey in my tiny kitchen and invited Mrs. Johnson and some of my friends from the senior center. It was different from the big family Christmases I had imagined, but it was good, warm, full of laughter and women who had all survived their own battles. Have you thought about responding to his letters? Diana asked me that evening after everyone had gone home and we were washing dishes together. Every day, I admitted, but I don't know what I would say. The truth is always a good place to start. That night, for the first time in 8 months, I wrote to my son, Marcus, and it took me 3 hours to finish one page. I received your letters, all of them. I'm not ready to see you yet, but I want you to know that I see you trying. Keep going to therapy.
Keep making your payments. Keep being honest. Maybe someday we can talk face to face, but that day isn't today. Mama. I mailed it the next morning before I could change my mind. His response came 5 days later. It was short, just 3 sentences. Thank you for writing back. I'll keep working. I love you. January arrived with bitter cold and new routines. I had joined a book club at the library. I was taking a watercolor class that met twice a week. I had volunteered to help with the children's reading program at the local elementary school. My life was full in ways that had never been when I was living with Marcus and Keisha, always waiting to be needed, always available for their next crisis. The February payment arrived on time. So did March. Each month, Marcus sent his letter with updates on his therapy, his life, his journey. He had gotten a promotion at work. He was living in a smaller apartment now, one he could afford on his own.
He had started volunteering at a youth center, mentoring young men who came from single-parent homes. "I'm trying to be for them what you were for me," he wrote. "Present, supportive, believing in them. I just wish I had appreciated it when I had it." In April, exactly 1 year after I had left, Marcus's letter included a question. "Would you be willing to meet me for coffee? Just 1 hour, in a public place. I'm not asking to come to your home or for you to come to mine. Just coffee. I want to see your face and tell you in person how sorry I am." I sat with that letter for 3 days. I asked my friends what they thought. Beatrice said to trust my gut. Linda said to make sure I set clear boundaries. Pearl said that a year of consistent payments and honest letters counted for something. Finally, I wrote back. "There's a coffee shop called Brewed Awakening on 47th Street. Saturday, April 20th at 2 p.m., 1 hour." The days leading up to that Saturday felt like years. I changed my outfit 4 times that morning. I practiced what I would say, how I would sit, whether I would hug him or shake his hands or just nod hello. I arrived 15 minutes early and chose a table by the window where I could see him coming. At exactly 2 p.m., I saw Marcus walking up the street. He looked different, older, more serious, like someone who had lived through something hard and come out changed. He saw me through the window and stopped. For a moment, we just looked at each other through the glass. Then he came inside. "Hi, Mama," he said softly. "Hi, Marcus." We sat down across from each other, two people who shared blood and history but were essentially strangers now. The waitress came and we both ordered coffee. Neither of us touched the menus. "Thank you for coming," Marcus said. "I know how hard this must be." "It is hard," I agreed, "but I'm here." He took a deep breath. "I've practiced what I wanted to say 1,000 times, but now that you're sitting here, all those words seem inadequate. So I'm just gonna say the simplest truth I know. I was wrong. Completely, absolutely, shamefully wrong. I took advantage of your love. I took your sacrifices for granted. And when you had nothing left to give, I tried to discard you. There's no excuse for it. There's no way to make it right. I can only promise that I'm not that person anymore. And I'm working every day to make sure I never become him again." I listened, really listened, and I heard something in his voice that hadn't been there before. Genuine remorse, not the kind that wants forgiveness, but the kind that accepts consequences. "The money doesn't matter," I said finally. "You could pay me back every penny and it wouldn't change what happened. What matters is whether you understand what you took from me. It wasn't just money, Marcus. It was my dignity, my sense of worth, my belief that I mattered to you as more than just a resource." "I know," he said, and his eyes filled with tears. "I know, Mama, and I'm so sorry." We sat in that coffee shop for exactly 1 hour, as I had promised. We talked about his therapy, about the things he was learning about himself, about how easy it had been to fall into patterns of entitlement without even realizing it. Dr. Richardson asked me something that changed everything, Marcus said, stirring his coffee without drinking it. She asked me if I would have treated a friend the way I treated you. If my best friend had given me $119,000, would I have then asked him to move out so someone else could be comfortable? And the answer was obvious. No, never. I would have been grateful every single day. I would have made sure he knew how much I appreciated him. "But I was your mother," I said. "So you thought the rules were different." "Exactly. I thought mothers were supposed to sacrifice. I thought that was just what you did. I never stopped to think about what it cost you or whether it was fair. I just took." The hour passed quickly. When it was time to leave, we stood outside the coffee shop in the April sunshine. Marcus didn't try to hug me, didn't push for more time, didn't ask when we could meet again. "Thank you for giving me this hour," he said. "Whatever happens from here, whether you ever fully forgive me or not, I want you to know that I'm going to keep working on myself. Not for you, for me. Because I don't want to be the kind of man who treats people that way." "I appreciate that, Marcus." He nodded and walked away. I watched him go, and for the first time in a year, I felt something other than anger or hurt when I looked at him. I felt hope. Not hope that everything would go back to how it was. That was impossible, and I didn't want it anyway. But hope that maybe, eventually, we could build something new, something healthier, something based on mutual respect rather than one-sided sacrifice. Over the next few months, Marcus and I met for coffee once a month, always in public, always for exactly 1 hour, always with clear boundaries. We didn't talk about the past much. Instead, we talked about the present, his job, his therapy, my watercolor classes, my volunteer work, my friends. He told me about the young men he was mentoring at the youth center, how he saw himself in them, especially the ones who took their single mothers for granted, who didn't understand the weight of the sacrifices being made for them. "I tell them my story," he said during our June meeting. "I tell them what I did to you and how I lost you. Some of them don't want to hear it, but some of them do. And I can see something click in their eyes when they realize they're heading down the same path I did." "That's good work you're doing," I said, and I meant it. It's the least I can do. If I can save one mother from what I put you through, maybe there's some redemption in all this. In August, on what would have been payment 16, something different arrived in my account. Along with the $500, there was an additional $1,000. I called Marcus immediately. "I got a bonus at work," he explained. "I wanted to put it toward what I owe you, get it paid off faster." "Marcus, you don't have to." "I know, but I want to. Every month that I owe you money is another month I'm reminded of what I took. I need that reminder, but I also need to know I'm actively making it right." By September, we had established something that felt almost like a real relationship again. Not the old relationship where I gave and he took, but something more balanced. He would ask about my life with genuine interest. He would share his struggles and victories without expecting me to fix them. And slowly, carefully, I began to let him back in. Diana noticed a change when she visited in October. "You seem lighter, less burdened." "I think I'm learning to forgive him," I admitted. Not because what he did was okay, but because holding on to the anger was poisoning me. And because he's actually changed, really changed. That's growth, sister, on both sides. The breakthrough came in November, 2 days before Thanksgiving. Marcus called me, which was unusual. We usually only communicated through our monthly coffee meetings and his letters. "Mama," he said, and I could hear nervousness in his voice. "I know this is asking a lot, but I wanted to invite you to Thanksgiving dinner at my apartment. I know you probably have plans with Diana and your friends, and if you're not comfortable, I completely understand, but I wanted to ask." I thought about it for a long moment. "Who else will be there?" "Just me. I'm cooking. Well, attempting to cook. I found your old recipes in a box of things you left behind. I thought I'd try to make the cornbread dressing you used to make." The image of Marcus, alone in his apartment, trying to make my recipes, touched something in me. "I'll come," I said. "But Marcus, I'm not staying overnight. I'll come for dinner and then I'll go home." "Of course, whatever you're comfortable with." Thanksgiving Day arrived cold and gray. I took the bus to Marcus's neighborhood, which was different from the upscale area where he and Keisha had lived. This was a working-class neighborhood, not unlike the one where I live now. His apartment was on the second floor of a modest building. He opened the door wearing an apron I had given him years ago, flour on his face, and a slightly panicked expression. He said, "I think I did something wrong with the dressing. It's too dry." I couldn't help but smile. "Did you add enough broth?" "I don't know. Maybe. Can you look at it?" We spent the next hour in his small kitchen, me showing him how to fix the dressing, him listening carefully and following instructions. It reminded me of when he was young, standing on a stool beside me, learning to cook. Except now he was a grown man, and I was teaching him not just how to cook, but how to take care of himself. The meal wasn't perfect. The turkey was slightly dry. The gravy was lumpy. The rolls were burnt on the bottom. But it was made with effort and care, and that mattered more than perfection. After dinner, as we were cleaning up, Marcus said, "I have something for you." He went to his bedroom and came back with a large envelope. Inside were receipts, hundreds of them, every receipt from every payment he had made to me over the past 19 months, $9,500 in total. "I'm keeping track," he said. "So you know this isn't just words. It's action. It's proof." I left Marcus's apartment that Thanksgiving evening with a full stomach and a lighter heart. The relationship we were building wasn't the one we had before. It was better. It was based on honesty, boundaries, and mutual respect. It was based on him understanding that love wasn't a one-way street. Christmas came, and this time Marcus joined Diana and me and my friends for dinner at my apartment. He brought gifts, not expensive ones, but thoughtful ones. A set of watercolor brushes for me, a book Diana had mentioned wanting, homemade cookies from Mrs. Johnson. He stayed for 3 hours, helped clean up, and left without being asked. "He's different," Diana said after he was gone. "Really different." "People can change," I said, "if they want to badly enough." The payments continued every month. $500, like clockwork, never late, never missed. In March, he sends an extra $2,000 from his tax return. In July, another bonus payment of $1,500. By the time we reached the second anniversary of my leaving, he had paid back $17,000 of the $111,000 he owed. At this rate, he would have it paid off in less than 10 years instead of 18. But something has shifted in me. The money no longer felt as important as it once had. What mattered was that Marcus had kept his word. For 2 full years, through his divorce, through financial struggles, through everything, he had never missed a payment. He had never stopped going to therapy. He had never stopped working on himself. One Saturday in September, Marcus called with an unusual request. "Mama, I need your help with something." "What is it?" "One of the young men I mentor, DeAndre, his mother is sick. Cancer. She's been doing treatments, but she can't work, and they're about to lose their apartment. I've been helping them with groceries, but I don't have enough saved up to help with rent. I was wondering—" He stopped, and I could hear him struggling with what to say next. "You want to use the money you would pay me this month to help them instead," I finished for him. "I know I made a commitment to you. I know the payments matter. But Mama, this woman, she's in the same position you were. She sacrificed everything for her son. And now she's sick and struggling, and her son is finally seeing her for who she is. I want to help them, but not if it means breaking my promise to you." This was the test I hadn't known I was waiting for. Would Marcus choose the easy path, pay me and ignore someone else's suffering? Or would he choose compassion, even at the cost of his commitment? "Help them," I said. "DeAndre's mother needs it more than I do right now." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure. But Marcus, I want you to do something for me. Anything. I want you to take DeAndre to visit his mother in the hospital and I want you to tell him what you learned about appreciating your mother before it's too late. Can you do that?" "Yes, Mama, I will." That conversation changed something fundamental between us. Marcus had asked permission to help someone else instead of fulfilling his obligation to me. He had put compassion over debt, and I had supported that choice. We were finally operating as partners in kindness rather than creditor and debtor. 2 weeks later, Marcus called again. "Mama, DeAndre wants to meet you. He said any woman who raised a son who's trying this hard to make things right must be someone special. Would you be willing to have coffee with us?" I met them at Brood Awakening, the same coffee shop where Marcus and I had our first meeting 2 years ago. DeAndre was 19, tall and thin, with old eyes that had seen too much struggle too young. He reminded me of Marcus at that age, full of potential, but also full of entitlement he didn't even recognize yet. "Mrs. Williams," he said, shaking my hand formally, "thank you for meeting me. Marcus told me what he did to you and what you did for him by giving him a chance to make it right." "How's your mother?" I asked. His eyes filled with tears. "She's fighting. The treatments are rough, but she's strong. Marcus has been helping us a lot. Not just with money, but with rides to the hospital, sitting with her during chemo, talking to me about what it means to really be there for your mother." We talked for over an hour. I told DeAndre my story, not to shame him, but to show him what could happen if he took his mother for granted. I told him about the $119,000, about being asked to go to a nursing home, about the 2 years of rebuilding trust. The question you have to ask yourself is, what kind of man do you want to be? The kind who realizes his mother's value only after she's gone, or the kind who sees it now, while there's still time to show her? DeAndre listened to every word. When we parted ways, he hugged me tightly. "Thank you, Mrs. Williams. I'm going to do better, I promise." 3 years after I left Marcus's apartment, we had built something I never thought possible, a genuine relationship. We had dinner together twice a month. He came to my art shows at the senior center. I went to the youth center to meet the young men he mentored. We celebrated birthdays and holidays, but always with clear boundaries, always with mutual respect. The debt was almost paid off. Marcus had been making larger payments as his career advanced, and by my calculations, he would have the full amount paid back within 6 months. But the money had long ago stopped being the point. One evening in November, Marcus came to my apartment with a serious expression. "Mama, I need to talk to you about something." We sat down at my small table, and he pulled out his payment ledger. "I've paid you back $104,000 so far, $7,000 left. I'll have it paid off by March." "I know," I said. "You've been incredibly consistent. But here's the thing. I don't want to stop the payments after March." I looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean, for the last 3 years, paying you back has been the center of my moral compass. It's been the thing that keeps me accountable, keeps me remembering what I almost lost. If I stop making payments, I'm afraid I'll slip back into old patterns." "So what are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that after March, I keep making monthly payments, but not to you. To a fund for single mothers in crisis, women like DeAndre's mom, women like you were when Dad left, women who sacrifice everything and deserve support. I want to start a foundation in your name, the Dorothy Williams Foundation for Single Mothers, $500 a month, every month, for the rest of my life." I sat there, stunned. My son, who 3 years ago had asked me to go to a nursing home, now wanted to create a foundation in my name to help other mothers. "Marcus," I said, tears streaming down my face, "that's the most beautiful thing anyone has ever done for me. It's not just for you, Mama. It's for me too. It's how I make sure I never forget the lessons you taught me, the hard way." We hugged then, really hugged, for the first time in 3 years. And in that embrace, I felt the last piece of my anger dissolve. Not because Marcus had paid me back, but because he had truly changed. He had become the man I always hoped he would be, not through my sacrifice, but through facing the consequences of his actions and choosing to be better. Today, 5 years after I left Marcus's apartment, I'm 73 years old. I still live in my little studio in Bronzeville. I still paint watercolors and volunteer at the elementary school. I still have coffee with Beatrice, Linda, and Pearl every week. But I also have my son back. Not the son who took me for granted, but a man who understands the value of love, sacrifice, and respect. The Dorothy Williams Foundation has helped 12 single mothers so far, providing rent assistance, groceries, and support during their hardest times. Marcus volunteers there every weekend, and sometimes I join him. People ask me if I forgave him. The answer is complicated. I forgave the man he became. I'm not sure I've completely forgiven the man he was. But maybe that's okay. Maybe forgiveness doesn't have to be absolute to be real. What I know for certain is that a mother's love is powerful, but it shouldn't be unconditional in the sense that it accepts abuse. Love should have boundaries. Love should require respect. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is walk away until the other person learns to value what they had. My son learned that lesson. It cost us both dearly, but we're both better for it. And that's worth more than any amount of money.